Could you tell me a little bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah, I can. I so oh wow, this is a big question for me at the moment because I'm in a really big transition.
Mm.
Um, so I went from being the last year or and a bit being a social media expert, so somebody who has worked in a business called the number one social media school for entrepreneurs with Jess Clare, and supported her to build that online business where people could take their ideas, their visions, and their messages and then turn them into a business. So that there were people out there making money that want to make a difference to the world versus just to make money.
Mm.
So we call that humanity-led business. And at the moment, that's where my reputation is someone who um, I have a bit of a split reputation, I'm noticing within my community. There's quite a few people that know me as a like an expression coach, a life coach, and like a self-confidence coach, which is why you reached out.
Mm.
And then there are a lot of people that know me as a business. Um, there's a word for it. Consultant, a business
Yes.
consultant. So I consult people on how to build an online business, but ultimately how to just have more clarity in business and how to create and then or recreate a business based on purpose versus based on trying to beat the man.
Mm.
So um so I'm really in a transition stage at the moment. I have a few more, like I have a couple clients that I'm working with in the next couple of months about business and how to put themselves online and how to show up, how to be seen is one of the biggest obstacles. I notice myself just coaching people in how to be seen, how to be comfortable with themselves in front of a camera, all
Mm.
of those different things. And I've really tried to integrate what I know with my coaching, which is identity, constructs, programming, human behavioral conditioning,
Mm.
communications, also energetically, like how to experience, how to get into your body, um, and how to integrate all aspects of yourself, like your spirituality, your relationships. So really assisting people with recreating themselves in their identity. And that's what I love doing. I love when people come to me and, I work with my brother, one of my youngest brothers.
Mm.
He came to me asking to borrow some money one day, and I was like, only if you work with me. Come and join my Best Life community for young adults, because he was really dealing with a gambling issue, uh, alcoholism, all of heaps of financial things. And I was like, okay, so I really want to impact my brother's life. And the only way I know how to do it is to coach him. So I need to get his permission to do that in a way, so
Together.
so I blackmailed him. No, so I gave him some money and he came and worked for me. He paid it back. But
Yeah.
um, but basically, I was able to get him to stand inside of other people's shoes and have a look at his own identity and who he wants to be in the world and create a bit of purpose and in his environment. And I just noticed the difference.
Yeah.
And so that's why it lights me up. Is you can notice a difference in someone else's universe and how they view themselves in the world. And I just really get, like, my whole body gets goosebumps
Yeah.
thinking about it. Yeah, so I'm transitioning into that full time, with a couple of online programs
Mm.
and events next year. Mm.
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
How did you through this transitioning, how did you go from going from what you're doing to deciding this is for me? This is what I
Mm.
really want to do full time.
Well, it wasn't like a magical, sometimes you see it online. This is the thing about online too. Everybody just tends to see the fluffiness. There's either like really like people that are like conspiracy theorists that are like really heavy and
Yeah.
there's some real sadness, or it's like the opposite end of the spectrum and people are like, wow, I just made $2,000 off of, my MLM. So it's, and I do that every day. So
Yeah.
it sometimes tends to be one extreme or the other. And I notice that we just compare ourselves a lot. But ultimately, this was not an easy journey. Um, I chose to leave the number one social media school because of a really deep unfulfillment.
Mm.
And that's not to say that that business is not extraordinary, because it so
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's so extraordinary, and the conversations and the participants that I got to coach and the people that I got to interact with are extraordinary. Um, but it just wasn't where I was supposed to be. And I think that's why I'm really passionate now about having people listen to themselves, because I didn't for 11 years, since leaving school. I was just constantly doing what other people said I should do, or that what they thought was good for me, which was great because I really did not want to choose. I was like, making decisions is too hard, and if I didn't take responsibility, then I didn't have to be accountable for when it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So this was like the first real time in my life, I could easily say, as a 27-year-old,
Mm.
that I had made a decision for myself and what I wanted. And it was really hard. Yeah, it was really, really hard to make that decision. And then to actually start taking actions on it was even harder. So I took a month off.
Yeah.
I just gave myself a month to really sit with it. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. But ultimately, because I was really unfulfilled, I didn't know that I was going to be, I didn't know that I was going to, but my life would lead me to here.
Mm.
I didn't know that working at the social media school would have trained me in so many amazing tools to be able to, really impact other people's businesses. And I didn't know that having those conversations would lead me to realize how amazing I am at being able to just love people into loving themselves.
Mm.
So it's throughout the whole journey, and even this itself is a process. What else can be next? Who knows? But I know that I would just want to create containers and communities of people that just love each other up unconditionally, and that we all just get that we're here for one human experience and to celebrate that.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
the journey continues.
Yeah, I often think about one decision I made X months or years ago led me to
Mm,
this moment here, led me to doing the podcast, led me to do an event. And now I connect with a lot of people when I do groups and I do circles, and it was all because I made one tiny, tiny little decision. I
yeah,
think it was just over a year ago. Yeah. And like I
it's
was
amazing, isn't
going
it?
through depression and anxiety, and what had happened was I had looked at my social media and it was all negative, and I knew
Mm,
that wasn't going to be good for me. So I ended up deleting like over 1,000 people, and I started
mm,
adding people that I thought they just had a really good energy about them. And that's when
mm,
I started connecting with them and going to their events and doing work on myself, and yeah, and just that one little decision has just led me
amazing.
to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that those decisions are the aware decisions,
Mm.
those decisions we make where we can see, I mean, what's predictable for us if we continue on a certain, route. And then we're like, you know, for myself, I was like, what's predictable is that I'll just stay working for somebody else, having put in a lot of work to have it, you know, have the business actually expand the way that it did so quickly. And then I'll just keep doing that and working for other people and never actually feel like I'm where I'm meant to be and appreciated for what I'm up to. And so it was this, even when because I was working in hospitality for 10 years as well, in hotel tourism, hospitality. And every job that I had, whether I was casual, contract, management, I was always doing the training and development of the staff. And I was like, I used to just fall into that position. I'm just naturally very good at communicating things in a way that people receive. Like, people really receive what I'm out to say. And so I noticed that I just naturally fall into these training and development positions in any company. And so I've done that for 11 years. And here I am like, wow, that's a tool that I have, you know. So it's amazing, you know, when you start to look back at the decisions you make as well and notice the common patterns. Because it didn't matter what job I was in, that was a common pattern for me, was that I was just in training development of the staff. And that's probably because I train and develop myself constantly as well. Yeah. All of the things that add up.
They really do.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
So one of the things, like, all of a sudden, I don't know when we connected, but all of a sudden you just started appearing in my stories, actually. And and you were talking a lot about, like, body image and everything. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Where to start? I actually want to share something a bit more personal, because I know that it's a lot more juicier to have a podcast where you have actual life stories and experiences. And so my body confidence journey probably started when I was around 12, maybe even earlier than that, when boys started to notice me. So I have 4 brothers, and I always, you know, had friends around. And my older brother, who's only a year older than me, but it would have been when him and his friends started to notice girls, is when I started to feel like I was noticed. So I probably would have been 12 or 13. And I just remember thinking to myself, wow, I'm developing boobs, you know. What are these things? And then I would see magazines that my dad would accidentally leave around. And I would hear conversations from the boys in the street, and my brothers, I would overhear them talking to their mates about women. And I'd compare myself. I would look at my friends and I'd be like, oh, so she's getting a lot of attention, and this is how her boobs look. And I would look at mine and I'd be like, mine don't look like that. What's wrong with them? You know, if my boobs looked like that, I'd probably get more attention. So I started, like, picking up these little things, like these comparison notes. You know, if I had round, delicious double G boobs at the age of 14, you know, if I had a skinny waist, really nice, like, actually it wasn't big hips at that time. It was all about being a size 8. Because once I hit 14, no way. I think it was like 14 or 15. I was a size 10 because I have big bone structure. And everything from there was like, I must be fat. And fat people don't get as much attention, is what I told myself. So I must be fat. I don't get as much attention. My boobs aren't round and perky. They're actually more like pyramids, you know, at that time. I was like, why are they pyramids, you know? Shouldn't they, like, round out? Shouldn't they just do this thing? But they didn't. They just pointed straight out. And it was like, what is wrong with this? So I just noticed myself picking on these little things. And then I started to notice what did get me attention was dancing. So I became a dancer and I danced for 10 years. Um, and what did get me attention from the boys was to be like them, because I had 4 brothers. That was easy for me. So play sports. I used to play a lot of sports. Be like them. So be really unemotional about, what you say and what you do. I just noticed that culture of not really having much emotion behind, how I felt. Someone would be like, "How are you doing today?" I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm cool." It was just, yeah.
I
So
get
I
it.
noticed I started to pick, yeah, exactly. I just noticed myself starting to pick up on these cues to get attention. And then as I got older, I didn't have a boyfriend really until I was in year 12. I had the crushes, and I had like kissed a guy in a McDonald's jumbo gym once, but but I didn't have a boyfriend. And so year 12, this guy really liked me, but like 8 other girls liked him. And so he used to come to all my dance classes and watch me dance. And I used to even compare myself to all of them women, the really voluptuous ones who could shake it really well, and the ones with really long hair, the ones with nice tans. Oh, yeah. So I just noticed myself comparing myself to everybody, no matter what they looked like, no matter what scenario it was in. I was just comparing myself to everybody. And, I thought to myself, why does this guy like me? And there must be something about me that he would choose me out of all these 8 other women. And so it wasn't even necessarily about being, me liking him, which is the key for me, is like, I didn't like him. I thought he was cool. I thought he was funny. But ultimately, I was like, not interested. I was only interested because he, for some reason, was giving me attention above all these other women that I thought were like a 10 out of 10. So I noticed that that's where my own, you start to form your own image of yourself in your head. This is what I must look like. This is what people say about me, that I have really awesome red hair, curly red hair. So I kept that identity. People said to me, "You're a really cool dancer. You're really confident. You are really funny." So I kept those identities. And not a lot of people said to me that I was really that I was like your mom and your dad and your people that really love you say that you're beautiful. I wasn't hearing that from men though. And I was like, well, it mustn't really be true. People are just telling me that to make me feel better about myself. So everything started to exist inside of that identity, that, oh, there's something wrong with me. And I'm just not good enough. If I was skinnier, I'd be good enough. If I had rounder boobs, I'd be good enough. If I had a tan, I'd be good enough. So I just started to notice all of those things. And it led to eating disorders. It led to anxiety disorders. I had an anxiety disorder from the age probably about 13 till I was 22 or 23. And I would force myself to throw up after a meal, before I got to school, when I got to school, after lunch, before dinner, after dinner. And it wasn't because I was trying to look skinnier. It was literally the feeling inside of me was so intense. It was like such a nauseous feeling about how I felt about myself, that I would actually have to like physically get it out somehow. So it would come up as throw up. So I wouldn't necessarily class it as bulimia, but more of an anxiety disorder because of that. But that went on for a really long time. And then I did a program called the Landmark Forum, Landmark Education. I think it's called Landmark Worldwide, actually, when I was 22. So a couple of years ago. I think I was 22. Maybe I was younger than that. I don't remember. Anyway, I did that program and I really got to see for myself the way that I'd been treating myself in my own head. And the things that I'd started to notice were mostly about my body image.
Yep.
You know, I started to notice that I thought that I had to look a certain way to be loved. And I thought that I had to put on a certain front for the people around me to accept me. And I, you know, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that those things go away, because I'd be fucking lying. They never go away. They never go away.
Yeah.
You know, and some people are like, you know, you can heal them, and you know what, the healing part of it is really just accepting that you're a human being, that you have these conditions. Not to hold you back, but you are a human being, and to take actions despite the things that you're telling yourself.
Yes.
You know, and notice the other voice that gets just as loud that says, fuck that, you're beautiful. So I started to, it's like I started to build the strength in this other voice that was like, no, I think that you're just confused by the media, and you're comparing yourself to Joanna, who is a model, you know? Like, so I started to hear this other voice a lot louder than this comparison and this deception of what it actually means to be a woman. And so this other voice started to it's not like this one ever goes away, but this one started to get louder. And so I started to hear more often, wow, actually, I'm really making that up, you know. And then I do have my days where this voice says something, and I'm like, it's true. That's why he broke up with me, you know. So, you know, and that happened quite recently. I had this, I wouldn't call it a heartbreak. I don't think your heart breaks, but you know, I really liked this guy. Really, really liked this guy, and I hadn't been able to tell him for a really long time. And I told him, and he's like, yeah, I'm just not, my heart's just not there. And old Emily would have been like, it's because I'm not skinny, you know. And you know, I still hear that going on in my head. It's like, you know what, if you looked more like a Victoria's Secret model, there is no way that that man would say that his heart's not in it, you know. Yeah. So again, it's a huge journey, and I could talk about this for hours. But the journey continues, Ree. Like, I have days where I'm like, I do not feel like a goddess. And I'm not telling myself that I'm a goddess, but fuck, I'm going to show up like one. You know, despite it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, I may as well, is I've always wanted to do a podcast. It was like something I wanted to do for, I think, 6 years. And I wanted to jump on social media and just go all out and just be who I am. But the fear, not only the fear of being seen, but I didn't think I was beautiful enough, because I see all these people coming on and they look amazing. They have amazing energy about them. And I'm like, I was very hesitant, because I'm like, I'm not them. But that was also the thing. I am not them. I am me. And so I bit the bullet. I'm like, here I am.
And you're amazing.
And like, I have the moments all the time, and they don't go away. It's just, do you kind of go into it like a practice all the time, or have you gotten up to a point where you're just like, fuck yes, this is me, this is who I am?
Yeah, it's different all the time, if I'm honest. I've done so much different work. You know, I did Landmark for 9 years, and they're really training people in communication and how to create through language, how to use language as your tool to create the world and the reality that you want. Then I recently did a shamanic retreat, which is all about energetic tools, and things like crystals and meditation. And then I've done some card reading, Reiki stuff. And I've done, other modalities to do with dance. And I've read multitude of books, and everyone has a different opinion and a different model or way to be able to deal with these things. So ultimately, what I do is I choose which one I want to do at the time, or which one's going to serve me. And you know what? Sometimes I don't choose anything. Sometimes I really just sit there and I'm like, wow, this is just my humanity. There's nothing to fix or change here. This is just the way. And it's not, I say thoughts and feelings, and then I say to just accept them. I don't mean to honor them though. Like if I look in the mirror one morning and I'm like, oh my God, my hair is just a disaster, I don't go and then put a hat on and a wig. I do, and inside of that, it's probably very natural for me, but to answer your question, it probably is a process. The first thing I do is I acknowledge it. I acknowledge what the thought or feeling is. I acknowledge the humanity there. That's a really important step for me, and I actually teach that to a lot of people, especially in your relationships. If something's going on in your relationship and you're like, oh, I woke up with this like intense feeling about this, acknowledge it straight away. Because your thoughts do become your reality. As much as your words do, your thoughts become your reality, because then your behavior starts to show up that way. So acknowledgement is probably the first step in that process. And then it's actually looking at the source of where it came from as like step 2. Let's just make it up as we go, Ree. Step 1, acknowledgement. Step 2. This is how I work,
Yeah.
You just make it up as you go, but ultimately you have all the knowledge there. It's inside of you. But step 2 is like, where did it come from? What's the source? Where's the source of it? Oh yeah, I remember that time when well, actually this is the most recent one. So with the guy that I was telling you about, and we're really good friends. We're really, really amazing friends. I love him to bits. And I still noticed when he said, my head's in it, my heart's not, and I wish that it was, but it's not. And I just like, okay, I feel really sad. And I just said it straight out. I'm like, I feel really sad. I didn't say, you made me sad. How dare you? You broke my heart. I said, I feel really sad. And I actually experienced my chest contracting. And then I said, I realized when I look back at it later that everything about my self-worth came up because it reminded me of the first time that I gave a boy a love letter, and he ripped it up in front of me and laughed in my face because he was a new guy at school, and I'd say that he was just embarrassed, and he thought that was the cool thing to do as a boy. But to me, it said, you're not worthy of love.
Wow.
And so I was like, wow, my brain has just remembered the closest thing to this feeling and attached it to my worth. And so I just actually really get real with myself. I'm like, this is all about my worth. This has nothing to do with said his name. You can probably edit that, but it has nothing to do with this guy. Doesn't matter. There's nothing to do with this guy. It has everything to do with my self-worth, and it has everything to do with the way what I'm telling myself about the situation. And I'm not perfect at this, by the way. Sometimes I fuck up. Sometimes I'm like, my mom doesn't want to spend time with me, whatever it is. It's like I'm just making it up. But sometimes we really do think it's personal. But step 3, I love this. Step 3, always remember it's not personal.
Yeah.
yeah, everybody has their own little reality going on in here. And whether someone tries to intentionally hurt you or not, it still is not personal because they're just acting out on something that happened to them in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on survival. So that would be my process. And it's become such a natural thing for me that even when you said, do you have like a process? I was like, no, I'm just a human being. But it's because I really have highly trained myself to be able to process that and then like move on quickly. Yeah. You know, so this thing with this guy didn't last very long. We had an hour conversation and then I was like, wow, you know, this is going to be hard. And every night I've thought to myself, okay, emotions are coming up, feel through it, get through it. Like just like tell myself I just have to remind myself it has nothing to do with my worth. And it's not personal to me that he doesn't love me the way I want him to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my process.
I feel like you just created
like,
a program for those with the numbers 1, 2,
yeah.
3. Though. Like there you
I'm
go.
writing it down. All right.
There's your next event.
Yeah. That's actually pretty, it's very like on point to how my identity program works.
Yeah.
Is acknowledgement, getting to the source of it, getting that it's not personal, but then the recreating of the new identity. If you don't do that, then you just keep repeating your patterns.
Yep.
Yeah. So you got to recreate who you are for yourself. You got to recreate who you are for him or her or your parents, whoever it is. It's like, how do you really want to show up in this world? If it's not about your self-worth, then what is it about? So that's usually the 4th step that people miss. And so they just keep trying to, you know, it's like climbing the corporate ladder. They don't realize they're on the ladder still. They're just like, you know, or the hamster wheel. You're just going to keep repeating those cycles, you know. And I see a lot of people you know, out there doing self-development, trying to heal themselves, going through these really emotional barriers. And ultimately, they're getting all the healing, they're not recreating. You know, there's no creation going on there. So the brain just falls straight back into survival.
Yeah.
What worked before. Yeah. Yeah. I could talk about this for hours. I told you. It lights me up. It really does light me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. So I picked you. I just got that kind of energy from you. Just like seeing a 10-second story, I'm like, yeah, this is definitely someone who's passionate about what she does.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I really appreciate that. And I'm so glad it's being received. Yeah.
What I was going to say is, you know, this week was a really tough week for me, and I think I just overworked myself. Well, that's what I thought it was. I thought I overworked myself, and I became really emotional because I just didn't have any space for myself. And what it came down to is I don't do the things that I do the things that I love, but I don't do the things that make me feel like a kid anymore. And I actually had a really weird dream about it, and that's what it turned out to be. It was that feeling of being a kid again, and which is why I'm spending this week dancing to some songs, which I'm going to pick soon, and just singing too, because I love singing. My kids
too.
maybe not so much love my singing, but I love singing.
I will get them involved.
I find it very therapeutic. I'll be dancing
too.
around the house, like cleaning and stuff, and you know, the look of embarrassment on my kid's face it makes my day.
I love that. I do that to my brothers all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome. And that's definitely that's something that I actually suggest people do daily. You know, me and my housemate, we go to the beach and we run and jump into the water, and then we run out, you know, squealing and We just do these little things where we just like have moments, like bursts of fun throughout the day, you know, and you start to incorporate that into your life. It's amazing because joy comes back, you
Yeah.
know, like that real essence of joy.
Mm. Yeah, if someone
Awesome.
had asked me the question, when was the last time you experienced joy? I'd probably sit here for a while because I'm just so busy doing rather than
Yeah,
experiencing.
I'm
Yeah.
writing that down. That's a really good question.
Mm. I'm glad.
You're helping me out here with this program. Yeah, you're helping a sister out with this new program. Um,
Awesome. I love it.
I love it. So good.
Yeah.
But that's it. I started painting again after 10 years because I painted a lot in school. It was a really tough period of in my life, year 11 and 12. I had a lot of family stuff going on. Again, a lot of self-worth stuff, a lot of comparison happening with my friends, and you know, friends were going out and sleeping with strange men, and some were drinking a lot, and other people were starting drugs, and I was like, I don't want to do any of this, who am I, you know? It was like a real freak out
Yeah.
phase. And that's when I used to paint, was to bring myself back to, you know, my creativity, what I really enjoyed, and
Mm.
just like pure joy. And
Yeah.
so I started doing that again recently, and it's just been so much fun.
Yeah.
And even now that my business has started to lift off again and I've started to take actions in my coaching, I notice the pull to not paint because it's not a doing thing. It's not going to achieve anything, you
Mm.
know. So I even noticed in the last few days, I have a project that I want to do, and I'm like, but it's not going to get you anywhere. You know, I can hear it. I can hear it going off.
Yeah.
And
That's
yeah, to
the thing,
remind
isn't it?
ourselves that there's nowhere to get.
Yeah, we're so busy on getting somewhere and we're so busy on achieving something. I think because a lot of people ask, you know, what have you been doing with yourself if they haven't seen them in a while? And you're like,
Mm.
stuff, things.
Yeah.
When there's no
Yeah.
like physical accomplishment to actually show. It's like just being in the moment and doing something creative.
Mm.
And you know,
Mm.
I love cross stitching, and so I ordered some stuff online, and I spent like 2 minutes doing it, and I haven't touched it in like the last 2 months. And you know, there are other things that I want to be doing, but I'm trying to, like, I go in this space where I keep myself busy because it's achieving something, it's getting me closer to something else, but in the same time it's taking me away from myself too.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah, I noticed the pull to want to, like, because I really have created a life where I get to have joy every day. You know, I was in my kitchen making dinner last night because I've just really been wanting to eat healthier.
Yeah.
Um, and like wanting to create stories and show people that healthy can be fun, and not even just that, like I love to inspire people, which is why you probably see my stories and you're like, oh, she's so passionate, because it's for me that it's about inspiring people. But I'm in my kitchen. The parts that people don't get to see online is that I'm actually dancing around. And, you know, the reflection in the microwave, the reflection on the fridge, and the reflection in the mirror behind me in the bathroom. And I'm shaking it, and I'm looking in the reflections, and complimenting myself, and
Mm.
dancing and singing, and you know, that's the real joy in my life. I've really set up my life in a way that I love. I love my life.
Yeah.
And I experience joy pretty much in every moment,
Yeah.
you know, and even some moments where it's really sad, I still experience joy because I remind myself, wow, this is what I'm creating,
Yeah.
you know. And I really want to show people to have joy be the result or the product out of what you do versus finance. You
Mm.
know, we think we're going to do, we have to take these actions because they'll make us money, instead of thinking to ourselves, I'm going to take these actions because they bring me joy.
Mm.
So even if it is a task to do with work, I'm going to take these actions because this business brings me joy. So it's like reframing ourselves. It's not that we don't have joy in our lives. It's that we're telling ourselves that we have to do things, that we should do these things. Because not because we want to, because we're obligated.
I actually just had a conversation on the last podcast about the word should. It's a word I don't use, or I don't like to use. It's because it's such a guilt and shaming kind of word. Like, I should be doing this. I should be eating healthier. I should be exercising.
Yeah.
Because there's no intention there. There's just guilt and shame on things that I haven't done yet.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And there's no joy in feeling guilty or shaming yourself or others. There's no joy there at all.
No.
You know, actually I have this this distinction about superiority and inferiority. And mostly we'll shame ourselves or others to have ourselves feel more superior. And we'll even shame ourselves in front of people to feel more superior. And it's really interesting, this whole dynamic of wanting to appear like you're someone who, it's like not wanting to look bad, actually, is what I want to say. You know, even if we shame ourselves, we don't want to look bad. We want to show up as people that have their shit together, and we want to fit in, and we want to.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. And I say we because I include myself.
Yes.
Yeah. So the should and shouldn'ts are only standards that we hold on ourselves in society based on what you know, looking good, really. What looking good actually is. Yeah.
So apart
really
from
fascinating, actually.
Yeah. So apart from the podcast thing, I do VA work for coaches. It's something I've recently started doing.
Oh, cool.
And I love doing it. And I work for a few people, and I'll do something for someone, but I kind of make it as like it's easy because it's easy for me because I know this stuff. Whereas for them, if they did it, it would probably take them a long time. And so I have this kind of image about myself as well when I say, yeah, it's easy done, I can do it. But in the background, I just spent an hour Googling how to do something because I forgot one little tiny thing and it's just stuffed the whole thing up. So I'll be like, no, I got it. Yeah. It's just this image I like to have of myself of just having my shit together. Yeah.
Yes. I can 110% relate to that. And I think it has its cons and it has its pros. Like, I don't think any one behavior is just bad, you know. Looking good is not a bad thing. It has its cons and its pros. Cons obviously would be being that you can't ask for help. You know, we tend to refuse to ask for help if we want to look like we have our shit together.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm like, I don't want to ask for help. I want to sort it out and prove to you that I'm really good at this shit without knowing any of it. And then obviously, and then another con is that it might take you longer to do something. You might not be enjoying the experience. But the pros would be that people consider you as someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know, she's very efficient, or she's very independent worker, which is something that I got told a lot. Wow, you have an amazing work ethic and you're such an independent worker. And I'm like, that's because I'm pretending to have my shit together and look really good. So don't fuck this up for me because it's working. Yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my heart's like pounding, like, you got this.
Yeah. Don't tell them that you fucked it up. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Oh man, we have so much in common. Our identity constructs have a lot in common.
See, I love I love acknowledgement. Someone acknowledges me for some work. It's an instant kind of gratification for me. Like I love it. If I don't receive it, I feel pretty crappy. But the same time,
Yeah.
somebody says it, I feel it, and I'm like, oh, it's fine. It's okay. I'll kind of brush it off as
Yes.
nothing, but really it means everything to me. Words are a powerful thing for me.
Yeah.
I think it's
Me
like
too, actually.
five
Yeah.
languages is words of affirmation.
Words of endearment.
Yeah.
Affirmation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I had that conversation yesterday with someone because I used to do the same, probably moments of it, but I'm now more aware of when I want to brush off a compliment. When someone's like, wow, you look so beautiful today. And I'm like, yeah, it's just a new hair product, or because I'm wearing makeup, right? That's why, and it's like, I think that sits in with tall poppy syndrome, a culture, and I'm not blaming society here. I don't think that's, very accountable. But we have taught ourselves to be like modest or to be humble about when someone gives us a compliment, because otherwise we just look selfish. Yeah. So it's that's an interesting thing as well with body confidence is I'm noticing this culture of extremes. I'm not someone out there on my Instagram taking nude shots and all of that sort of stuff. And I don't mind the people that are, but there's no like just acceptance in society of self-worth. It has to be like that polarity seems to be very strong at the moment with, I don't know if it's landing what I'm trying to say, but it's either like it's very there's a lot of shame, or there's like almost like a protest about it. Yeah, I'm just noticing the extreme opposites. And usually that happens when we're trying to bring something into balance, which is really cool. It's obviously happening around the world at the moment because there's we've gone from one pendulum to the other, and it's trying to level itself out. But ultimately, yes, I like to look good too. And it's again, it kind of goes against our conditioning to accept a compliment if we already think of ourselves as independent and that we have our shit together, because that would assume that we don't need endearment. Yeah. But I'm like you. I love hearing when someone says to me that I am the most delicious person on the planet. Yeah. And I just want to fully receive it.
I was on a call last night, and what was the question? Okay, the question was, how long have you been on this journey alone? And I'm like, ow. I'm like, my entire life. I'm very self-independent, and it can be such a fault sometimes because it's just refusing help because I need to do all these things by myself. And we started talking about love, and then one person on the call said, you look really pretty today. And my first reaction is, I've just been to the gym. I'm sweaty. I look gross. I'm like half eating my dinner on the call. And I just felt really disgusting. And then someone's like, you look really pretty. Like, why?
Oh. That's so cute.
No, it was funny. But it's like, it was also the thing where, someone says a compliment and you're like, push it aside, or, you still feel it.
Yeah. You come up with every reason why it's not true, and there must be another explanation.
It's like, are you seeing what I'm seeing right now?
I'm writing that question down too. How long have you been
on
this journey?
That's
something. I am. I always take notes, because I'm up to so many different things, creating programs, writing a book. Yeah. You know,
I've already
and
gone
I'm always
through one
having
book
these
in the last
conversations
week.
with people.
Yeah,
I love
I'm
that.
the same. I'm always
Because
right.
that's something I can sorry, we're like, we must be lagging, but I keep talking over the top of you.
That's right.
What did you say?
I don't remember. Something about me writing. No, I'm always writing. And that's one thing I'm getting back into
Yeah.
this week because someone I know read a poem and it was about love. And it like really opened me up. And I'm like, oh, I miss writing so much. Because now I just write notes and I write things that I need to do and to-do lists and
Yeah.
everything. And it's just there's no creativity, there's no passion in that writing anymore. So I bought a journal. It's been sitting on my drawers for the last week or so. So I'm going to this week. I said at least pick it up twice just to write. And this is not journaling writing. It's just writing like feelings and emotions and things that are going to come up for me. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I do that in my phone because I literally try and put as much of my humanity in social media as possible. You know, I do have a lot of people contact me like, "You're so real." I'm like, "Well, yes, so are you." But I really like a lot of what goes in my journal goes on my social media. And a lot of that is my thoughts or things that I've started to put into my programs, the distinctions that I create, really deep things that are happening in my life. And I have some people say to me, "That's too personal. Why are you putting it on Facebook? You know, that's a little bit too intense." And I was like, because I want to remind people, you know, that they are human beings. We all have these experiences, and you don't have to compare yourself to my journey, but you can just know that, you know, there's someone out there that's going along the same path or that has been there. And there's not even like a light at the end of the tunnel, but honestly, life is just a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roller coaster of emotions.
I think it was just over a year ago. I had a coach and he was getting me to write things down and then wanted me to write posts about it. And I'm like, what for? Like, why? Like, why do I need to do that? Kind of thing. And I started doing it and people started reaching out. And then one day, someone I knew who was very outgoing and very positive and really amazing said that he was having some thoughts, some suicidal thoughts. And he opened up Facebook and the first thing he saw was my post. And I'm like, I think that's the first time I actually ever cried in front of someone. I'm like in tears. Like I didn't know that would have something simple as that, writing something down would have such a ripple effect on someone else. Especially when I thought this person was just so upbeat and positive all the time, when really they're human too and they feel the emotions. And we sometimes forget that.
We do. Yeah, absolutely. We all forget that everybody's on their own journey. And again, everyone has their own internal reality. What's going on in their head. You can't see it. Some people can feel it, you know, energetically. But ultimately, it's like, and that's why I really see social media as a source of inspiration. It is really a platform to connect. Looking outside of, you know, everything that you saw on Netflix with the social dilemma, and anything, you know, everything you hear about Zuckerberg and you know, stealing information and all of these things, putting all of that, like, not to the side, it's important, it's relevant, but noticing the opportunity that it is to connect globally and make an impact, to inspire people just by sharing yourself. Like that's the only key. Just sharing what you're dealing with, you know, and then like really being vulnerable enough to say to people, this is just my life right now, and this is going to change probably tomorrow, but I just want to share it. And you just really don't know the ripple effect that has. That's one of the big reasons I created Best Life. I have a Best Life leadership team of men, and they all have their own communities, pretty much just Facebook groups where they invite people in depending on what, one of them's a hiking group, one of them's Blokes Life, men's mental health group, one Second Chance Man, and that's about, the prison systems and helping and assisting men and women coming in and out of those systems. One of them's a car group in Melbourne that's gone, so it's huge. There's hundreds of thousands of people in that group. And Depression Warriors, which is a side piece to that car group about mental health.
Yeah.
And the men that I have conversations with that lead these groups are then having conversations with thousands of people about what matters to them, what do they want to talk about, and then they're then having conversations with their environment, and the only time I really get to see the ripple effect is when I'm at a family event and my dad and my uncle have been watching one of these groups and participating in them. And then they share about how they shared something with their wife, and then their wife shared something with and I'm just like, what? This is huge.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is amazing. You just, like you said, you just don't know. You have no idea what impact you're going to make, but just having the conversation it's incredible.
And I find that sharing your story or sharing a post about how you feel about something is the first step into getting into someone who's struggling, because then they start reaching out or they start looking at all your other posts and they connect with you, and then they start that conversation to help them get to where they need to go for a more fulfilling life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's extraordinary. And I think that's what I call community. That's what I call creating community. Doesn't have to look like everybody being in one group container on Facebook. It doesn't have to look like everybody having the same beliefs. It's really about having a common view, and that view being, inspiration, or that view being impact, whatever it is, that view being something about business. It's like having a commonality. And what I see it as one big community, because the commonality is that we're all human. So I welcome and accept anybody into my community, despite your past, despite what you're creating. If you're a coach, if you are a uni student, it doesn't matter, because you're a human being. So you're a part of my community, part of my tribe.